y'all noticed that there's been for the longest time in the VTuber community, we have had a lot of mentally ill content creators going from left and right. And I feel like it has, as much as I don't really think people are doing intentional, I do think that there's a lot of people, a lot of VTubers saying the most wildest stuff on the internet. I think it's funny. I like a lot of them. I think they're funny as hell. But we're gonna look now at the rise of Menhera. Are y'all ready for this? This is gonna be a big one.
Who will find this insensitive to people with actual mental illness, please note that this is just a video exploring the internet phenomenon, specifically in the weeb community. Mental illness is obviously a serious issue that must be taken seriously, so if you are sensitive to this topic, please keep this in mind as we go along the video or skip the video entirely. With that being said, let's begin. This is Ame-chan, the central character of the game.
Ooh, I remember this game.
Overload.
This is a good
game.
She
is a girl with all sorts of internal and external issues. She doesn't have work and she's going to be evicted in a month. She is depressed and craves social validation. She is insecure, has no standards or ethics, only hell-bent on getting popular so she doesn't get evicted. Like Tinkerbell, she needs attention or else she will die. This is Kenjo, a positive figurehead in the internet, a beacon of light in this dark and toxic cesspit that we call social media. Someone who is selfless, promotes good health and positivity, someone who can do no wrong.
Is sound fine, by the way, guys? I just wonder, is the sound fine?
You, if no one else will. Unless, of course, if you treat her bad. Ame-chan and Kenjo are actually the same person. Ame-chan and Kenjo are extremely attractive to certain people. This is Shiori, a VTuber from top VTuber agency HoloLens. She is a VTuber that many people would call girlfriend material. She is goofy, she likes all sort of things, she reads books, she's more cultured than a lot of people liken themselves to.
Definitely
she's familiar
cultured
with the internet, and she's this comfy goofball that just wants to have fun. But when she got announced with this design, certain demographics brainwashed themselves into thinking this was her actual design. And when it turned out she wasn't as mentally deranged as her design implied she would be, they reacted by shouting regardless, people
classic
who stuck to
4chan
already realized that she is actually peculiar in her own way, goofy and still fitting with the goth, e-girl, nerdy GF that her character design made people think. Shiori is extremely attractive. There's one more person I'd like to introduce.
You know, the crazy thing is that she, like, you look at a lot of, I'm not gonna name any names, but you look a lot of the HoloLive VTuber girls, and a lot of their design is pretty basic and nothing that wild. And then you look at her, she's hot. Like, look at this design. There's so many variations, so much going on. This is a great VTuber model.
Is extremely attractive. There's one more person I'd like to introduce. Well, multiple people, actually. And the reason I list all of these, including those in the collage, is because these examples make up the three core types of menheras that Yukari Seko and Minako Kokichi in their 2022 paper titled Mentally Ill and Cute as Hell. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about
a good menheras. Combination.
You'll like this, don't you?
This is what really tickles dude's brain. Someone mentally ill, crazy, ready to literally gut him down, but they're cute, so they're fine with it.
Star Rail, legit one of the most compelling, highly produced games of all
time. We've heard about this game a couple times.
Honestly, their game dates. Check the game out.
Congrats on the sponsor. That's big.
First of all, what is a menhera anyway? Well, I mean, if you are already watching this video and follow my channel, you most likely know what it is. But to the uninitiated, it's basically a mentally ill person. But the term has an interesting origin that involves 2chan, but it's a term that no longer applies now. Because recently, the internet has pushed beyond that original definition and has added a little bit of extra, making it a bit more broader. Now, it's gotten so big that it's become an aesthetic, a vibe. It doesn't have the same serious connotation that it used to, at least not that much. The concept of a menhera is now associated with cute or sexiness a lot of the time. Now, the definition pretty much includes all sorts of derangement, edginess, frequent leaks of intrusive thought, or anything that's quirky. Hell, even a certain fashion sense. Because of this, it's important to actually differentiate all these types of menheras and categorize them. Again, the paper published by Seko in Kokichi has already given us a lot of great work to start with, so let's begin with that. According to the paper, and with recent observations, there are 3 types of major menhera tropes: the sad girl, the mad woman, and the cutie. We will be covering sub-tropes that fall under these 3 major categories, so don't you worry, we have a lot of material to work with. The sad girl, as you might guess, is a girl that's sad. No, seriously, the sad girl is somebody who struggles with anxiety, low self-esteem, hopelessness, and loneliness. But you might ask yourself, what is so cute and attractive about this? Well, this is a trope that's very common in media, where either a depressed woman or a depressed person is saved by the hero or heroine. A forlorn, beautiful girl who never gets anything she wants, stuck inside her mind, bullied for the longest time, longingly wishing for that one person to look at her and treat her like a human being.
And if you think about this in some sort of way, if you look at this in a VTuber form, think about like a girl or dude, let's just say like a girl, right? A VTuber girl that is always sad, but she's so happy when you're there. She needs something more, but dude, you're giving her that more. And that's like, so a pet, in a formal way, but what it builds up upon is parasocialism to the extreme. This thing here is the most mental way of attracting people that are weak to parasocialism. The ones that will think that they are more than what they are, because what they are representing is the need of their audience.
It appeals to people's sense of ego, or even people who wish to find shared vulnerability. Both stable and unstable men will,
and also it also makes people relate. Like this is actually a really big thing to keep in mind as well. There's a lot of people during Corona and after Corona that have like a lot of problems socializing and feel like a bit lonely, depressed. You know, they have a lot of things going on in their brain. And whenever you see somebody that is super cute and actually feel the same way, you sort of feel like you can relate to them in a form of manner. And that's where the parasocialism acts once again.
The sad girl, with the former having their masculine protective instincts coming in to wish to help and fix them, and the latter having somebody they can relate to and hopefully lick each other's wound. And a big reason why this archetype has been peddled around by women who relate to the sad girl and men who like the sad girl is this interesting little character over here. This is Kurumi, otherwise known as Menhera-chan to a lot of people. And stickers of her got popular in line, and now emotes of her are used by an ungodly amount of discord.
I actually don't know who she is, but I've seen that a million times.
Of sorts by the author on her little personal website until she received help from an editor to turn it into an actual manga. And the quality of the manga is subjective in terms of quality, and some of it might even come across as disturbingly insensitive to actual mental health issues, but the aesthetic and the quirkiness of the character immortalized Kurumi-chan into the weeb culture icon that she is now. The lore behind it is pretty sad though.
There
the author
she
got
is.
bullied in school and socially withdrew. Again, Kurumi-chan was a diary or autobiography of sorts of the author. So whatever feelings that this girl goes through in the manga and in the original text is also the same kind of feelings that the author went through. And she was around 14 years old when all of this was made. The sad girl's suffering is the suffering of existence itself. If you ever sat in a corner or on a table, perhaps holding a pillow or staring into the ceiling, wishing that you were dead and that there is no point in living, you stopped resisting those thoughts and fighting for anything that's worth it in life, you've admitted defeat to the cold universe's relentless assault against anything that makes you happy. There's nothing more for you in the future. You've justified isolating yourself by saying that the world is gonna end anyway. Friendships don't matter because they all end. Relationships eventually turn into breakups. Physical touch is only temporary, but despite that, you still want those, but just can't participate, cannot learn to bother the skills to get them. You completely and utterly withdrew into yourself. You've been stuck into this feeling for so long that the pain becomes numb. Perhaps you externalize your inner pain by drawing your own blood to feel something, selfishly hoping for a calamity that would just end the world, or that you get into an accident that kills you immediately. Something this existential is the reality of the sad girl. It is something that nobody wants to go through, but unfortunately in this social climate, a lot of people are all too familiar with to varying degrees. And you see, there are those people who, perhaps in their ego or genuine sympathetic nature, wish to save or fix this person. It is the most human and best reaction to do. However, one has to be careful and to take note. A flailing, drowning man drags and swims past their fellows in order to save themselves. It is not malicious, it is instinct. Saving a flailing, drowning man can sometimes end up with the savior drowned themselves. But not me, obviously. I can still save her.
And that's the thing, that there's a lot of people that can relate to that because of Corona. Everybody felt like a little bit, like a lot of people felt lonely and depressed during COVID, when everyone was locked up and couldn't see people. There's a lot going on there, and some might have escaped that thought process, and now they've left it and they can sort of relate and try to help them out. But some are still there.
This is a bit of a stretch, but there's a sub-trope under the sad girl that does not necessarily have all those dark and deep tones.
I don't think you need to make it as complicated as it makes it seem. I think in the end of the day, it's just another form to feed of parasocialism.
But people somewhat find the same sort of attraction to anyway. That sub-trope would be the anxious girl. These are basically people that are extremely shy. And I hear you asking, hey, you stupid dumb rabbit, that's basically a tsundere. No, it's not, you fucking idiot. Let me explain. A tsundere is someone like Sawako Koronuma, Miyu Akiyama, and Hinata from Naruto. Pretty shy, but not necessarily socially inept. The anxious girl is someone like Bochi the Rock or Komi from Komi Can't Communicate. These are the girls who you kinda have to force in order to engage with people, and may be extremely lonely growing up. Oftentimes, there's a smidge of depression and wanting for more in times when they are alone. And oftentimes, they don't even realize that they actually are very depressed or lonely and sad. Especially when they taste a bit of what they're missing out on and only then realize that they may be more fucked up in degrees worse than they thought. Of course, they don't necessarily have to be depressed, but they do have to have a sense of longingness for companionship, but is just too socially anxious to pursue it. And people like this trope because some people relate to this type of person, and at the same time, a lot of men like to have a very cute, very socially anxious person because if they could just penetrate the walls of that one girl, then they are in there alone with that person. There is no competition, it's just you, that girl, and nobody else. Some even like it because if they are able to do that, they cement themselves as a core and important figure in this person's life. They made an impact that, in the foreseeable future, cannot be beaten. And what is a greater desire than that? What is humanity's greatest desire for each other than to protect someone and to be fondly remembered by others, whether romantically or platonically? Alright, now let's take a look at the other tropes. The mad woman, unlike the sad girl, is someone whose appeal is based off of her madness. Now, this broad definition opens up a lot of
the wild card
sub-tropes, with the unifying factor being that they are obsessed with something or someone, often in a romantic way, and are very psychopathic and sociopathic in their means of getting what they want or expressing something. Such means include self-harming, emotional or even physical harassment, blackmail, stalking, and all sorts of not so socially unhealthy behaviors that are adjacent to those. Again, this is very broad, and we can already categorize a few key notable subtropes that are very common and popular in Japanese and sometimes even Western media. I call them the yandere, the girl boss, and the weird girl. The yandere is something that most likely don't need that much explaining. It's probably the easiest and most popular subtrope of the mad woman. It is someone that's obsessed and insane. Literally insane for someone, to a point that they could do anything to get them, including, again but not limited to, murdering the competition or anyone that gets in the way of their relationship, even their own family members. And often, they would even kill themselves or the person that they like if they realize that they don't have any more chances with that person no matter what they do. The appeal of the yandere trope is that they are very unhinged and crazy for the people they like. Whether that insanity be subtle or explicit, either way, a few people in the internet like the idea and the fantasy without necessarily wanting to take that sort of relationship IRL. This insanely hot and cute anime girl that's way above your league, insanely crazy for you to a point of being murderous, that's attractive to some people. The fact
I mean, if you have this hot girl that would literally do anything just to make you happy, right? If you have this super hot girl that would literally kill somebody if they hurt you, that is gonna tickle somebody's brain to think that, man, this woman really loves me. Like she would do anything at all. And somebody that doesn't really, you know, that want to live in that fantasy, it is what they're after.
Someone deserves
literally
them that badly is a massive appeal to one's ego, or even a nice fantasy to warm up someone's cold, lonely darkness, especially when it's a yandere, someone who doesn't care about your flaws and insecurities and is still obsessed with you regardless. The girl boss is different though, because they have some of the traits of the yandere, but imagine if the yandere was a bit more reserved and is able to control their emotions better. However, romance doesn't have to be involved with the girl boss. The girl boss, unlike the yandere, who brute forces herself and is very aggressive in showing off their love, is very subtle. She won't murder anyone in cold blood, she'll assassinate those people or just get a hitman. They don't scream or threaten you to love them, they convince you that there is no one else in the world other than them that will love them as much as they can. They won't emotionally pressure you, they'll manipulate the circumstances around you to make you do what they want. They are manipulators, but in a different, more implicit way. Always 2 steps ahead of anyone. Someone who has tamed their insanity and psychopathy and manifesting their derangement in intelligent ways. And they are especially dangerous, more dangerous even than the yandere. The yandere might kill you or everyone else around you, but the girl boss can do worse. These days, the girl boss are shown as very powerful and authoritative figures, showing up as a mastermind type of character who shows interest in a particular person, whether that be for their own personal reasons or other ulterior or sinister ones. People like the girl boss because they're often portrayed as smoking hot, confident, intelligent, mature women who can be as crazy as the yandere, but without the explicit traits that may turn people off that the yandere has. People like confident, capable women, especially in this day and age where people like a woman who can take care of herself and essentially mommy you. Lastly, we now have to go over the cutie. The cutie is...
I think people are just down bad. I think they're just very, very down bad. They just want a woman that knows what she likes and want to do.
There's a lot of layers to this trope, and that
Kafka
is very
type?
hard
Yeah,
to
pretty
explain
much.
in words. In fact, I think it's better to show you. Do you get it?
No.
I'm sure you do. Basically, the cutie is a trope that embodies sick cute aesthetic, an aesthetic that incorporates very cutesy stuff with dark and disturbing themes.
Yeah.
Putting in elements like bandages, wounds, knives, nooses, eye patches, pills.
Anything that's remotely seem adorable.
It is what makes it so intriguing.
Yeah.
Now, unlike the other tropes.
And this is like a thing I want to say is that have you thought about this for a second? Like, a lot of people outside are essentially wearing nearly the same things, right? But whenever you see somebody kind of cosplay something, or somebody having a little bit of a different style of clothing and it looks a little bit cute, it does impact you in a much bigger way now because it's so unusual. It's so different. So when we get into these aesthetics, they really do strike interest for people.
Even try to be appealing. Well, sometimes the cutie is quite the opposite. They intentionally make themselves look appealing and cute, juxtaposing their dark
But in reality,
some to disturb the viewers, some to intrigue, some to hide their mental illness behind the cuteness, perhaps even a little bit of all three. There's even a cliche where the girls in this sub-trope like Hello Kitty, especially Kurumi. Regardless of why they do it, it's working. But to expand on and add my own observation to this trope, I would actually like to include the Jirai K or landmine girl to be part of this, because I think, from the name itself, the cutie is a trope that shows off their mental illness with having a cutesy spin. To a certain extent,
I've always viewed it in the sense that their cuteness is hiding away the way they're actually feeling. Like it's basically just an illusion, just to move away from how they actually are and how they actually feel.
Even applies to goths and even Lolita culture somewhat, because of their similarly strange tendencies in media and their associations. It's a bit more complicated than that, but we're not getting into that in this video. The Jirai K culture is so popular that overseas people actually do like participating in the trend and the fashion style without necessarily understanding the culture behind it. And I don't blame them, because In the eyes of anyone that isn't brain-rotted with weeb stuff, mental illness is probably far from the first thought when they see this. But to anybody who is in this culture deep enough, you look at those sets of clothes and this aesthetic and alarm bells are gonna start blaring. Perhaps even your boner getting. In Western cultures, certain parts of this trope could even include the whole mascara dripping down the face and people still looking hot and attractive kind of thing. And the cutie aesthetic actually also works in the West. The point of the cutie is that they're a mess who makes the fact that they're a mess appealing, or to hide their mental illness under the cuteness, and for the most part, it works. It is designed to be cute. It's supposed to look like a trap, but while even knowing that it's a trap, a lot of people are probably willing to step into that trap. And the sub-trope
it's hot until it's emotionally worth it. In reality, they would never date these women anyways. They would not have a chance at all. This is all a visual fantasy. And the way they're selling this fantasy is by being interesting, by being different. This is all a fantasy in the mind, and the human mind, when it comes to what they're dreaming about and what they want, is not exactly what they wish to happen. They do in their mind, but in reality, nah.
Cutie is actually something that a lot of people might find familiar. The quirky girl are people who are different from other girls, and I mean actually quirky girls, by the way, not those not like other girls crowd that both you and I probably have a bad opinion of. They're people that are just plain weird or does not have any filter and lets their intrusive thoughts a little too much. Sometimes they just like unconventional things or have unusual hobbies and passions. This is where the goth and the Lolita culture kinda muddies the water a little bit. But
yeah,
often it's because they actually do have mental disorders. Could have ADHD, autism, or
I think the cutest, like, I feel like the people that do Lolita are usually the cutest people ever. Like, they're so nice, they're so chill, and they have this different type of outfit that is really, you know, is adorable. It is very unique and different. But then you put this kind of girl into the mix, and it's like, ooh, wait a minute.
Schizos, among many other disorders, and it just leaks out without them intending to do so. Now, do these tropes, all of these tropes, mean that people are romanticizing mental illness when associating themselves with the cutie? Kinda. Yeah, that's why a lot of people pretend they're mentally ill or exaggerate their symptoms or diagnose themselves with all sorts of illnesses, because some people genuinely think that mental illnesses are fashionable, a reason to stand out. It makes them
I must be real. I think a lot of things on the internet now has been looked as fashionable, which is a little odd. A lot of people self-diagnose themselves with very small things like ADHD and autism and stuff like that, because it's like, if you know, it is in some form of way fashionable. And then you have all of these extra tropes whenever you get into VTubers where they are taking actual mental disorder and taking a twist on them, you know? Like, these things work. It works. And that's why people continue on doing it.
People like to be unique,
I'm Uzi. How you doing?
Even if it comes with the cost of downplaying or trivializing how serious or outright life-ruining some of these
it does downplay it for sure
are. But because a lot of people like to watch it, it got popular. And if there's a demand, there will be supply. Some people will see how someone can get passionate or fixated over certain things and start yapping and call it autistic or think it's cute and funny. Some people will see schizo menhera breakdowns on the internet and how not taking meds is cute and funny.
Everybody is sitting there thinking, I want a hot, crazy schizo goth girl. Because if I date her, it's like dating 10 girls. And she's always hot and goth. And then they don't really realize like what all of that entail. Well, frick me. People don't even know what goth is. And then they see a goth and they're like, wait, this ain't for me.
Think that's desirable even. Both men and women, some of them at least. But one has to wonder, how did it start being desirable and fashionable? How and why did people start finding menheras and mental illness attractive? You might have heard the phrase, I can fix her, or its more or less known counterpart, I could fix her, but honestly whatever the fuck is wrong with her is way hotter. You see, they're a step, well, more than a step away from the safe and conventional. Vanilla sucks to many people. And look, no shame on the vanilla enjoyers out there.
She can make me worse.
In this age of desensitization, and
real men want peace in mind, crazy girlfriend don't give you that.
Vanilla
it's more like if you're young You want something different in your life. And maybe that difference could be a crazy girlfriend that will take you out and suddenly go paragliding and forget that you have a parachute on.
Is a dying taste. They're never gonna go away, but its followers are gonna get cold in the future because people are now getting exposed to so much extreme stuff at such a young age that they'll seek out more stimulating things. This applies to people's taste in men and women. More and more people out there are gonna start looking for the unhinged, the unpredictable, for the strange, the macabre, for the quirky. This is legitimately addictive, and the menhera becoming an entire genre is quite literally the proof that that's the future we're heading into. And the fact that this isn't even the peak of the popularity of this trope is scary, because in multiple ways the menhera is fucked up as a genre. Again, it trivializes too many sensitive topics and plays it up
the crazy
as
will
something
bag
else that
you.
it's not supposed to. It has its own societal setbacks if it does get more popular. It has other elements that fundamentally disturbs my principles as a YouTuber, if you can believe that, but I still can't help but consume it. I can't help but wish to spread the menhera gospel to my fellows. It's a guilty pleasure, but to many others, it's not a guilty pleasure. Sometimes it's all they have. It is inherent in men to care and protect for someone. The more someone needs to be cared and protected, the more this instinct flares up. And what needs to be more cared and protected than a menhera, especially when it's fiction, especially when it's fantasy. See, the fantasy element of the menhera is what I'd argue is the main reason why this is so popular. There is a disturbing rise of male loneliness these days. Not just in Japan or the US, but everywhere. Shut in, hikikimori, neat, whatever you want to call it. And many people also see a lot of these Instagram models or femcels tweeting and saying how they hate men or wish that men should be this or that, or have incredibly high standards or whatever. I'm not agreeing with that, but a lot of men have these echo chambers or get into all sorts of rabbit holes. Heck, some of these rabbit holes include stuff like AI chatbots and whatnot to substitute these companionships. And these rabbit holes have them ending up with two sorts of conclusions. Either this is better than the actual women that they see on social media, or that they don't have any other choice. Again, you look at women who are mentally ill as a probably depressed
never lonely without you streaming here. That's right, guys. We're all dating. Don't worry about it. You don't need to feel lonely. You got me. I'm not going anywhere.
They can be crazy and quirky for everything, and most especially for you, and you end up finding that relatable and desirable. Someone who can understand you. Perhaps someone to lick each other's wounds, try to fix each other. Some people even find the menhera
if you're sub, we're married, essentially.
Personality than a lot of women that they see online do. Some feel as if they don't have any shot with other stable women, so they go for the mentally unstable ones because they're more attainable. In a way, some men essentially think that the menheras are the low-hanging fruit that they can reach. The only fruit that they can reach.
I'm not paying
the ones that are taken
support for all
easily. And that's not too uncommon these days. The desire to care for someone perverse, the desire for attention and love twisted, the desire to feel taken to the extreme. This is essentially the menhera. All of these sentiments come from the fascination and intrigue. It's a trope that no longer is even a trope anymore. The culmination of people like Yuno Gasai and Yandere's as a whole, Ame-chan and all other cute mentally ill people. It all led to having the menhera and its subtropes be more than a trope, but an entire genre.
I think that also when it comes to like VTubers, I do think there are small portions that act a little bit, but I also do think that there is something about VTubers that initiates creativity. I feel like the most interesting entertainers in the industry nowadays, and this comes from somebody that's been consuming fucking media content of content creators on Twitch and stuff on YouTube for so long. I do feel like VTubers are really the media that is shining the most on creativity and uniqueness when it comes to the content they create. And personally, I feel like also that a lot of whenever you are using a model like this, you can be more yourself and you can be more relaxed. And some of these VTubers are actually just unhinged. Some of them are just crazy. They don't give a fuck. They don't care because there's no like risk associated with it because they can just be themselves, since the online personality isn't actually their face. Their online personality isn't actually their name. They can just go out and be themselves. And that's why you often see a lot of VTuber. Again, it's many act, but a few of them are actually within those mentally unstable tropes.
To summarize what I'm saying, the reason why there's...
But I also feel like sometimes they're also a little bit an exaggerated version of themselves. Because if they are really that mentally unstable, they gotta, you gotta go look for help.
Such a massive supply of menheras.
VTubers are the future. I think VTubers are great. I think they're great
for it. By lonely men, by depressed men, and there's women who participate in that supply because it looks fucking cute and adorable. But there are actually mentally ill women who find menheras relatable that do this. And well, I mean, look at this. The menhera could be looked at as an attempt of the mentally ill to be confident and beautiful, like the people they aspire to be, either to seek out attention or draw people into their trap, or to genuinely imitate the types of people that they admire. This made needy streamer Overload the cultural explosion that it was. Have you any idea what this game did to mentally ill women online, to the Yan core community, and even to some of the pretenders? All I have to say is that Ame-chan and Kangel is the Ryan Gosling of mentally ill women.
Interesting.
So for some women,
this game was
can't
big.
Get anything done in life when they're depressed, they might as well look cute and sexy when they're suffering and crying.
Play Honkai Star Rail. Rude. This was a really good video. This was a very good video. I think he explained it very well. He never really mentioned that many VTuber within this trope, but overall, I think this was a great video. This was a really good video. I always love this channel. He's doing great. Amazing video. Yeah, personally, I do think that we will see more of this, because again, I think that a lot of... I think it's just what the community wants. Like, honestly... I think that this is just, it's just in the end of the day, what people are asking for, and they are receiving. They are receiving what they wanted. I should become a schizo VTuber. You're not crazy enough. I'll take sane people for 600, please. Oh God, really good background info. Yeah, I think he's very knowledgeable. Great video, very amazing video.